I spoke recently of Neptune transits generally, and here we have Mars and Neptune square to each other. So what happens when Mars and Neptune are square? Which they are for a short while at the moment, just this week really. Well, we've got the two forces of Neptune and Mars at cross purposes. So what Neptune wants to do is to dissolve all that is illusion, which is everything, so that you can appreciate the oneness with all and everything and have this cosmic experience. That's what Neptune's trying to do. And Mars is actually trying to express its self in the world. I am this, I want that, I'm doing something. And Neptune's just, well, who is this I? That's an illusion. What is this thing called action? That's an illusion. Expressing yourself in the world, well, self, world, that's an illusion, you know. So you've got this kind of cross-purposes thing going on where neither is actually interested in the other point of view much at all, at first. But the thing about a square is that the first noticing of a square, so each planet, I speak anthropomorphically here, Neptune will see Mars and think, wow, nonsense, you know, that childlike kind of behavior, that's just a silly little boy thinking he's important. Nonsense. And Mars is seeing Neptune and saying, whoa, you know, I don't think that kind of energy has any place in my world. It just seems silly to me. That's the starting point. But the square inevitably kind of forces both energies to identify each other and accommodate each other and see the benefit of each other. And we have the understanding from Neptune's point of view that it doesn't really have an ingress into life. It doesn't have an entree. There's no way that Neptune can actually fit in with our normal reality, because our reality is based on the illusion that things matter, that things have form and duration and so on, and Neptune just doesn't have that illusion. Neptune knows that nothing lasts. Everything's just a speck of imagination for a short period of time. And yet it needs to actually get into the world to have an impact here in this physical world. It is part of its journey is to have physicality. That's an aspect of the whole of reality, is this kind of slowest version of light. So Neptune does need a way to get into the world, and Mars knows all about that. So Neptune has the advantage in aspecting Mars that it's got an agency through which it can move into the world. So what Neptune would like to see is Mars behaving in a Neptunian-like way, which is with some sensitivity and awareness to the moment that we have, this particular momentary illusion. And therefore Mars has to not be fixed of purpose, but to be much more sensitive about what's going on. Now, if you can think of an occupation where Mars is like that, is very sensitive indeed to changing times, anything ephemeral would be like that. So, you know, you could imagine that musicians particularly are agencies through which Neptune can flow into the world through this Mars-Neptune transit. There's another kind of image when one has of these Tibetan monks who create this, what's it called, yantra or mandala on the earth, and it's hugely Neptunian, hugely beautiful, and they just blow it away when it's finished, making the point that everything is ephemeral. It just changes, it moves, it dies, everything. And we mustn't forget that it's the process that's important, not the product. And I think here we have the real understanding, deeper than music itself, is the process of making music is the music, really. the sound and the interaction with the audience, perhaps, that's secondary. Maybe that helps us to get to that higher state of being. But the process that musicians go through when they create music is the best example I can think of at the moment of a Mars-Neptune aspect. Now, from the other point of view, what Mars is in life is the expression, pressing out of self. And to do that and create results in the world is very pleasing to Mars. Mars likes to be effective. It's masculine. It's kind of dominant and assertive of self and not awfully sensitive. And that's because it's meant to push and have a breakthrough energy. It's not meant to be sensitive. It's meant to be pushy and single-pointed. And with Neptune there, it can't be that. Neptune can't hold attention on the same thing for more than a moment. And that's what Mars wants. So Mars has to understand how there's an advantage in embracing this diffuse energy into its way of being. And its sense of beauty, Mars, is usually to do with martial skills. If we can see a martial artist, a fighter, kung fu or whatever, and it's choreographed. It's a sort of trained dance movement that's made all the more precise when in interaction with another. Now, the distortion of that principle moves martial art into fighting and hurting people and stuff, but that's not really what it's about. Martial arts is really about learning your dance so well that when you're dancing with the other, it's beautiful and it creates this vibe, this energy field within which you can do things that you can't normally do. So I would say that Mars is moving towards the exaltation of itself in a Neptune transit, but it does need to be doing something where Neptune is important. So I've mentioned this energetic field that's created when two martial artists are at it. And that energetic field is only possible when Mars is involved. There is this dynamism, there's this quickness, this speed, this risk of death. These are real energies. And you can see this in sport sometimes. If you see the highest level of sportswomen, they're doing their thing. And however ugly, shall we say, or base or earthy is their activity, like the strangeness of a pole vaulter or the sumo wrestlers or that kind of thing, where on the face of it you can't see beauty. Somehow the exaltation of that principle creates an awesome sense of beauty. So, I've talked about music and the music within the music. I've talked about martial arts and the grace created by that. We're talking about that vibe that's within and without. We're talking about creating a dynamic expression of Holy Spirit in its highest form of earthy expression, whether that's fighting or music. That's the highest form of a certain quality of energy. That's the kind of energy that's available to us with the Mars-Neptune aspect. Now, not many of us can do either of those two things well enough to get to that state of grace, but we have the possibility to move in that direction a little bit more so when Mars is square Neptune this week. And it could be that that's what awakens your interest in some activity. And I've just listed two there. There might be 100 more, where what you're doing either creates or depends upon a knowledge of cosmic reality. And that might well be the essential mystery here.